In the second video today, we're going to be learning about, we're going to be hitting this learning target. I can solve multi-step equations by using the distributive property. So just a moment ago, you talked about combining like terms. Now we're going to solve equations using the distributive property. So we've got our little checklist that should be done in order. Use the distributive property first, simplify both sides of the equation, and then check your solution by plugging it in. So the first thing we're going to do on this first example is we're going to use the distributive property. The distributive property says to multiply the outside number by everything on the inside of parentheses. So 2 times 3m is 6m. Bring down my plus sign. 2 times 4 is 8. And that equals 26. I'm going to isolate my term with the variable. So I'm going to isolate 6m by using the inverse of adding 8. The inverse is subtracting 8, and I do that to both sides. 8 minus 8 cancels each other out, and I bring down my 6m. That's equal to 18, because 26 minus 8 is 18. And then the inverse of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. I'm going to completely isolate my variable now and divide both sides by 6, and I get m equals 3. I can check my answer by just doing some mental math. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13, and 13 times 2 is 26. So my answer seems reasonable and makes sense. I'm going to try the next one here. I'm going to use the distributive property first. So 24 equals 3 times 2j is 6j. Bring down my minus sign. 3 times 4 is 12. I'm going to isolate my term with the variable by using the inverse of subtracting 12. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Negative 12 and positive 12 cancel, and I can bring my 6j down. 24 plus 12 is 36. So now I've got 36 equals 6j. The inverse of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. So I can do that to both sides. And I get j equals 6, or in this case it looks like 6 equals j. I can rewrite it so that my variable is out front. J equals 6. And again, I can plug it in to make sure my answer makes sense. 2 times 6 is 12, minus 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So using order of operations, my answer checks and makes sense. At this point in time, I would highly recommend that you try this last one on your own. Pause the video and then check your answer after you've done it. Hopefully you tried this one on your own and now you're just checking. I'm going to use the distributive property first. So I have 20w plus 10 equals 90. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides because that's the inverse of adding. And I get 20w equals 80. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 20 because the inverse of multiplying is dividing. 20 divided by 20 is 1, so I get w equals, and 80 divided by 20 is 4. So w equals 4 is the answer I'm getting. Now I'm going to plug it in and check. Hopefully you did this mental check for yourself. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. 18 times 5 is 90. So my answer checks and makes sense that w equals 4. So hopefully you have those notes down. Remember, you can pause or rewind as often as you need to get those down. And in the next video, we're going to move on to our next learning target.